Straight from the man cave, Kinnick Under the Kitchen. Authentic, original player artwork available for Hawkeye fans across the country. Now, in addition to the classic sign prints of Hawkeye greats like Chuck Long, Torrey Taylor, and Cooper DeJean, more authentic prints are coming, including current Iowa football stars Cade McNamara, Luke Lachey, and Xavier Wampa. There are so many options available. They make great gifts. Plus, your purchase benefits the athletes themselves and your favorite Hawkeye program from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Visit Under the Kitchen on Facebook, visit the stand each year at Fry Fest, or check out their website, underthekitchen.square.site. Again, that's underthekitchen.square.site. Check out Under the Kitchen today and get your authentic, original Hawkeye print. Well, folks, now we wait. Well, I'm joined as always by Coach Gary Close, former Hawkeye assistant and turned Badger, but returned back to the Hawkeye side, the good side, in his latter years. Gary, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Good to be back.
The Iowa men falling in the Big Ten tournament, second round, final score 106-94 to the 7 seed Illinois Fighting Illini. Brad Underwood's team fighting today in spite of a pretty good offensive effort from your Hawks. 21 points out of Josh Dix. Peyton Sanford had a great game offensively, made 8 threes. He finally came along. He's been struggling from 3 for the most of this Big Ten Conference season, Gary. He makes 8 of them today, but it was not enough. And we're going to get to why. Some of the obvious reasons are some of the stats you see on the bottom ticker. Illinois was plus 17 on the glass, plus 20 from the free throw line as it relates to attempts, and certainly controlled the paint. But that's part of rebounding, boxing out, all of that. We'll get to the ins and outs of this. The reason I opened up with and now we wait is because now we wait. This was a very strange way to end the year. Now, we don't know if Iowa will end up in the crown. I like to think they will, Gary. Now, will they accept the invitation? That's not a guarantee. We've seen teams not accept invitations to play in the NIT in recent years. For people that aren't aware, The Crown is basically the Big Ten's version of the NIT that will be telecast on the Fox family of networks and will feature primarily Big Ten and other P4 teams. But we'll see if Iowa will accept that invitation. Fran McCaffrey ejected from today's game in the second half in a 2T sequence that featured the latter half of that sequence featured very clearly a couple of very easy to read expletives from Fran, and he was gone. They showed the replay of the first technical, and of course, we don't know what was said. It was reported by Andy Katz on the sidelines that had been building in that first half. Fran had said some things, and Larry Scarato, longtime Big Ten official, had basically told Fran to cut it out, tone it down, and something was said there, not to Larry Scarato, but to one of the other two officials that got him the first tee. I saw a couple of assistants try to hold Fran back. Fran said, again, bleepity bleep, and he was done. Walked through the tunnel, and Iowa just never could get rebounds, defensive boards, eliminate second chance opportunities, Gary. Way too many open shooters. It feels like deja vu, Groundhog Day as it relates to defense, especially against Illinois. I mean, they've thoroughly, although the game in February, they didn't get beat on the glass, but traditionally against Brad Underwood coach teams, they struggle to defend. They struggle on the glass. It is a very talented, skilled group of Illini players, and Brad, he runs good stuff on that end. So they're hard to defend. So I know I threw a lot at you, Gary. Let's start with the technical. Just your thoughts on the tee. My only thing is you can't get the second, and I've said that before. I go back to when Fran got tossed against your team, Bo Ryan and yourself and that squad, and you remember the game. Fran got the second tee, and he was done. Iowa went on to lose in Madison. It's one thing to get a technical, and fans have been pent up, frustrated that he hasn't been more passionate. You just can't get the second. And Iowa actually played well right after that. But just your thoughts on the technical sequence.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think it's exactly what happened. And the second one was unfortunate because that's 4 free throws. That's a lot of points to give up. In a game that's still in question. So, and I do think they did respond, but they just got outscored. I mean, I think if you had said before the game that they're going to score over 90 points, you think they'd have a pretty good chance of winning the game. But Illinois was even better in terms of offensive, and so wasn't a lack of effort. Certainly wasn't a lack of offensive execution. It just like you said, the rebounding, a few too many fouls, and a few too many open shots, and Illinois took advantage of it.
You don't have to worry about getting fined. So let me ask you. I think it's very clear, Fran, it was not just about one play. He was obviously upset on a number of fronts, and it went back to the first half. The stats are what the stats are. Illinois shot 30 free throws to Iowa's 10. That doesn't always tell the full story, and rarely does it tell the full story. But you tell me what you thought of officiating, and is that an indication that the whistles were uneven?
Maybe somewhat. I was surprised when I looked at the stats and saw the discrepancy. I knew they had shot more. I didn't know it was that many, but Illinois is a physical team. They took the ball to the hoop. The problem is when you make dumb fouls and get into the penalty early, then when you foul, legitimately, they're shooting free throws rather than taking the ball out. The foul differential was only about 6 or 7, but the number of free throws was obviously astronomical. So it tells you that they got into the penalty sooner and then took advantage of it. So, it didn't jump out at me as I was watching. Maybe if I went back and looked at the tape, I'd think a little bit differently. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, my couple of observations during the game on Twitter, the offensive rebounding hurt them early, and you hoped that there would be some sort of a change at halftime. But, boy, Illinois set the tone right at the beginning of the second half with more second chance opportunities. By the way, Iowa got killed on the offensive glass yesterday. They gave up 13 offensive rebounds to Ohio State. And I thought early in this game, Gary, with the offense Iowa was running, they had a period of time where they scored 6 straight field goals. They weren't off second chance opportunities. They were just scoring at a very efficient clip. The problem is they couldn't secure rebounds. And if you can get a few of those rebounds and get out to a 6 to 8 point lead early, I mean, not that Illinois couldn't have overcome it. Obviously, they were incredibly efficient on offense, but is there a facet of setting the tone early on the glass that great teams
Oh, no doubt. Yeah,
do?
if you're not physically, into the game, and guys are flying to the boards, then they go, oh man, this is going to be easy. Nobody's going to get in front of me. I'm just going to keep right on going. Whereas if you lay some wood on somebody early and say, hey, if you want to come, this is what you're going through.
Yep.
Then they might have second thoughts. So, it's kind of like establishing a run in football. You just physically you bury them, and then they don't want a part of you. So, Illinois is athletic. They're long, but they had to be more physical in terms of impeding them going towards the glass.
This is obviously not a one-game issue, and it stretches further back than just yesterday, Gary. So let me ask you this. What is the big problem with this team on the glass? Why do they get routinely beat in that category? Is it physicality?
I think it's physicality, and I think they don't have anybody that's just a mean rebounder that just loves the rebound and go get you 10 or 12 every single game or close to it. They almost got a rebound by committee, and they're just not big and physical enough to do that. So it's kind of a combination of both. And that's where they miss. They've had some good players in the past, like the Murrays and Garza, where they could, they're going to go get you 10, 12 rebounds every game, and just makes it a little bit easier. And then teams got to focus on them, and other guys got a chance to rebound. And they never had a big time rebounder all year long.
Lots to get to here, folks, and I know people very active in the chat here early. Mac is in the chat. He says these kids had no help with defense all year, so what else could they expect to do? Score 90 on Illinois, enough. Beth needs to call it now, fire him now, and there's going to be people on the other end of this that say, hey, even if Beth believes that he should be fired, she should wait until after postseason is complete. I think we talked enough about that yesterday. I really don't want to talk about it today, but we do enter a pivotal time, and the reaction that we saw from Peyton Sandfort there at the end, very emotional. You feel for that young man, and I've been critical of him for his play on the court. I've never been critical for him as a human being or his leadership skills. He's going to succeed at life. He'll probably be a really good pro. I don't think he's going to play in the NBA, but I think he'll get a cup of coffee in the G League and certainly play overseas. Excuse me, Gary, but you've been doing this a long time. Talk about, even without having coached him, how that feels to see a player get as emotional as we saw Peyton Sandfort there at the end.
Yeah, he's the epitome of what a Hawkeye is all about. I've had a chance to coach guys from the state. That's all they ever wanted to do was to play for Iowa, and it was their dream. And then to be able to do it, that's not easy. And then be able to do it well is also not easy. And he's worn the uniform well. He's ready to play every game. He gives it everything he's got, whether he's making shots or not. It's really, really important to him. He cares. I can't think of a better representative of the program, and what a terrific leader. And yeah, he's a big time player. I would have loved to have coached him. He's like I said, he's what being a Hawkeye is all about.
Well, Mansky, thank you so much for the super chat. Brings up the goal. I almost thought about saying this would have been really bad timing and bad seasoning on the wound, so to speak. But I almost said, let's make a goal of getting $100 worth of super chats in tribute to the 100 points given up. But I thought that's in poor taste at this point, folks.
I think so.
That's in poor taste. So I didn't do that.
We could get 90 for the 90th that all guys got.
Yeah, there you go. Get to 90 for the losing effort, of course. But folks, we're going to get to your calls, and we're going to have to keep them relatively short tonight. I'm going to be cutting people off if they continue and ramble. So just be aware of that, because this is potentially the last time we get Gary this year. We'll see what happens. Of course, with, again, the crown and everything, we don't know. But let's go to our phone lines. We'll start on our actual phone line, and the phone line is 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. And our phone line, everything sponsored tonight by RTI Threads, Owen Freeman, Peyton Sandfort, Josh Dix. You can still celebrate these great athletes, all those guys. Owen Freeman was not playing tonight, but boy, Peyton and Josh gave it their all in the final game of the I shouldn't say final game of the Big Ten season this year. You can celebrate those athletes and so much more as it relates to Hawkeye gear, rtithreads.com/NIL. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close. Who's on the line?
I'm so horny, Nick.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
God.
As an Illinois fan.
Yeah, no, it's just there's a lot of morons in the world, Gary. There's a lot of morons in the world. So
You're telling me.
all right. What's funny is that guy has tried to call in like each of the last few nights, and I've managed to keep him away, and he got through tonight. So
how did he do that?
Oh, people have too much time on their hands, Gary. They have too much time on their hands.
Poor defense, Corey.
Poor defense. That's exactly what that was. All right, let's go back to our phone line. Thank you for calling the game with Coach Gary Close. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Chris in Wyoming.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Whoa.
Yes, I'm good. And I thought I'm going to say hi to Coach Close. So hello there.
Thank you.
I really enjoy you when you're on the show, and I always enjoy you too, Corey. But here's my question for you. I had my television on mute when Fran got kicked out of the game, and it was very confusing to watch, because all of a sudden he's leaving, and I couldn't. What happened? You know what I mean? I didn't see him waving his hands or getting, upset and angry, and then he's gone. So what happened?
First of all, the second one, he clearly said, "That's bleeping, bleep, bleep." All right, that's it. Clearly, the camera was right on him. We know what he said. He was. I mean, you get one.
Use the F word.
You get one, Gary. Do coaches know what words are okay to say and what words? Because you see some coaches that go on and on and on, and they don't get the second one. But is it a matter of tone and actual words in that moment after the first?
Well, it's if they tell you to stop and you don't stop, that's usually where you get cleaned out. So, I mean, they've taken questionable words before, but if it gets to the point where, hey, I've heard enough, that's it. I hear it again, you're gone, and that's probably what happened.
Yeah, we don't know what the first one was, Chris, but it was definitely something that was said because he wasn't like demonstrative. He certainly didn't make contact with him.
Not at all. Yeah.
Something was said, and I think it sounds like Andy Katz, who was reporting from the sideline, said that it was a series of events that dated back to the first half.
Okay. I was just confused by it. And the only other thing I have to say tonight is that I canceled BTN Plus with Glee. So I got rid of that.
Thank you for reminding me to cancel BTN Plus with Glee.
Yeah, they make it kind of hard for you, but I did it. So anyway, yep. I still love the Hawkeyes.
We all do.
And we'll just see what they come up with next year. So go Hawks, and thank you for everything you do, Corey.
Thanks for the call.
Such a better call than the previous guy. Did they just say that?
Big step up.
Anyways, all right, Lomansky. Thank you for this super chat, but I want to acknowledge this is a different super chat, Lomansky. Thank you. I don't see any words attached to this one, but I want to acknowledge it because it's there. Thank you, Lomansky, for that. Okay, couple things. Let's see here. We want to get to our player of the game, our RTI Threads player of the game. Before we do that, we've had this guy on for a while, and he gets here early and waits his turn. So let's get him in here before we even get to our player of the game. Doug, it's always good to see you. I know these are always hard days for you. You take these losses hard, and welcome back.
It's not about me, but I enjoy watching Iowa basketball. Get your hopes up for 2 games, and that's how it ends. No defense. And you guys know, in 4 years of calling this show, I've never complained about the refs. I'm not going to start today. Fran needs to be able to work the refs, not be worked by the refs. And that's just he has no he's earned nothing from the refs. He keeps and that's one of the reasons why I actually wouldn't mind him leaving, because he doesn't get calls. And whatever he's doing didn't help today. And him getting that second tee just didn't sit well with me.
Yep. Oh, it was right. I mean, it was it Robbie Hummel? Somebody, one of the two commentators, as the camera was on Fran, Gary, and you heard this, one of the two commentators said, you can't get the second one.
Yep.
And then as he said that, then Fran went, said his thing, and he was done. And you heard the whistle, and it was over. And Fran, here's the deal. Again, I want to make sure that I'm not, because I've been accused of being hypocritical this year, because some people are, they say, well, you got to be on one end or the other. Like, you can't be upset that Fran hasn't been passionate throughout the year while then be upset when he gets ejected. There's a balance there.
Yeah.
We don't need to just go from hands in pockets to getting ejected. There is an in between. I would have had no issue with the one technical. I would have had no problem with it. It's the second that killed them. And that's happened multiple times in his career. It hasn't happened in a while. But can I just say this, Doug? Nobody's relishing this except Illinois fans, the people who don't like Fran. But let me just say this. If this is Fran's last game, Doug, this was a poetic way to end on so many fronts. And you hit it. Fran McCaffrey gets ejected. They lose, giving up over 100 points.
Yes.
They get out rebounded by 20. And I mean, it's a poetic way. And the way the game transpired, we've seen, how many times have we seen Iowa go blow for blow with another high scoring team? But you know that eventually they're going to go a small spell where they can't score, and they're not going to be able to make adjustments defensively, and the game would be over. We knew that was coming. It happened tonight. And I'm not saying I want it to be Fran's final game, but if it is, it's a poetic way to end.
It's Fran's. It is so much of this season and so much of maybe even the overall Fran era in a nutshell. It just, like, I knew they were blow for blow with them, and it's just like, when are they going to miss some threes and break? And that I don't want to say they're not tough. I feel for Peyton, but again, and I actually was very kind of upset with the assistant coaches. Peyton's taking over that huddle, and I'm like going, you guys got to settle down, these guys. And I don't know if the assistant coaches knew what they were going to do there. And it's just very disappointing. And
let's ask Gary. I want to get his opinion on that, Doug. I appreciate your thoughts, but Gary, your thoughts on seeing Peyton Sanford take over in the huddle? I had no issue with it when I saw it, and I think it exemplifies leadership. Did you have sort of a question about that, like Doug did?
Not really. I mean, I couldn't get the full look at the whole huddle and what exactly was going on. Maybe the coaches were getting together to get organized, and they just showed the huddle. So, I mean, I think it showed real good leadership, as they mentioned. There's a guy that did not want to have this be his last game.
Yep. And
he's trying to implore everybody else, hey, look, we're still in it. We can still win this game with or without him. And you got to applaud that.
And one of my points there is, and I'm not saying something needs to change, and they need to be held accountable too. And I don't know how much assistant coaches are held accountable. I don't know what evaluations are going to be made. I know that something needs to change, and it probably won't be good enough. I would, how much I defended him last year. I said they make the tournament this year. I don't see a reason for them to be fired. He's earned being fired. And if this is how his last game is, he's definitely earned everything he got.
So let's just ask the question. Doug, do you think he has coached his last game at Iowa?
Yes. But
okay. I do too. I do too. I think this is it. And I could be wrong. Gary, I'm not going to put you on the spot. I think I know what your answer would be, but I do think he has. And this goes back to our conversation yesterday. And
I'm sorry about repeating that.
No, it's just, hey, it's more relevant now than it was yesterday. They're out of the Big Ten tournament. I think it's fair to have conversations about the future now, because we have officially entered postseason play. And by the way, Ben Johnson got canned this morning. Everybody else here saw that. You saw the announcement overnight, Gary. Minnesota announces the change in leadership. So these things are happening fast. And Doug, you know this better than I do. Would Minnesota have made the crown?
There's no criteria for the crown. That's what Tom was even indicating yesterday.
That's what I'm saying. Why would you, if it's not about getting the decision made before the crown, why would you not wait till after the announcements are made to see if you keep playing? I think schools are going to be making those decisions here very quickly.
The crown's just for Fox to get some type of money for March Madness. It isn't about a team earning it or not. And I hopefully I'm making sense when I say that. And the NIT and Crown don't matter to me. I mean, I mean, like I said, they're just. But I hope again, I'm not going to wallow in this for 6 months. I hope a decision gets made that makes me have some hope. I hope somebody comes in with energy. I hope there's some type of plan to get Iowa basketball back to the level which most of us would be happy with.
Was this his first technical of the year, Doug? This is what
somebody said that. Yes, somebody said that.
Saying that in the chat, and I don't recall a previous technical, but I almost would have said no. I think he had one sometime else, but maybe that's true. If it was his first tee of the year, it was probably not a great time for it. But
and I know you want to be quick here, and again, there's nothing I can say that I haven't said already 100 times in 30 shows, and I think Iowa basketball can be relevant and have 2 buys and be playing for the Sweet 16. I appreciate you guys listening to me. I like I said, I really don't have any questions for Coach. I mean, I know he's went through this back a couple times. With coaching changes, and I just want Iowa basketball to be relevant. And I'm not sure if right now with Fran as the head coach, I don't have hope in that. So they've got more seats in the last 5 years. I mean,
it's not a problem getting in the building.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I get a lot of. We were getting $2 StubHub tickets, so maybe to keep our costs down, we will want them to stay. But I'd much rather be paying $50 for wins than $2 to watch them lose to Minnesota at home when Minnesota's firing their coach.
And by the way, I just want to tell everybody right now, Doug just logged off, but if this was his last game, and we're going to have a Hawkeye hangout, we're in a live show when it happens, and I'm not going to come on here and celebrate that because, hey, Fran, for a lot of people, I mean, I'm close to 30 years old, and I know a lot of people my age and younger. A lot of Fran's career, Gary, is what they've known for Iowa basketball. Those who aren't historians, and I know I'm not going to call you old. You are part of the generation that, hey, the people that experienced that, it was a special time, and I would have loved to have experienced that. But the reality is, Fran's been here 15 years, so I don't personally believe in celebrating his demise if that's what happened. I feel for him. I think he's done a lot of great things for Iowa. He's done a lot of great things for a number of fronts. What I will say is that all good things do come to an end. So just like when I criticize a player, and I'm criticizing Coach, and I think maybe it's time to move along and see what the market has and bid him farewell. He's going to get a nice lump sum if he leaves, if they push him out. I also would say, hey, thanks for all the memories, Fran, because he's given them some great memories to look back on, Gary. I know the postseason success hasn't always been there, but I think you would. I know from a personal level, you have a lot of respect for Fran. Your son was a part of the program for quite some time, and just what can you say about Fran? Not to say this is his farewell story or farewell song. What can you say about Fran McCaffrey as a person?
Well, I've known him for a long time. Back when we were assistants, he was at Notre Dame and I was at Iowa, and I just always enjoyed him. He's a good guy. He's a great basketball junkie, loves the game, and well invested, and always treated me well, and treated my son well. And my son really enjoyed being a part of the program for a couple of years, and he's had an excellent career. It's everybody wants, to win more games and more championships and things like that. But the bottom line is he did it the right way. No hint of any kind of improprieties. His players love playing for him. Exciting brand of basketball, and so there's a lot to be positive when it comes to his tenure at Iowa.
Absolutely. All right, we will go back to our phone line. We've got Marcus here. Marcus, appreciate you calling the postgame show. Welcome.
Hi. So what do you think about Darren DeVries?
What do I think about Darian DeVries? Well, he's got a pretty darn good resume. That might be a better question for Gary. Gary, he's pretty young. Did you guys overlap on the recruiting trail at all?
Not that I remember. I'm sure it might have happened a little bit. When he first got to Creighton, but he's been successful everywhere he's been. He was a great player, and I believe I coached against him as a player.
Okay.
But he did it. He was very successful as an assistant at Creighton, and he did a great job at Drake, and he's done a nice job at West Virginia. So he's got a lot going for him.
Would that be a
bad
move? A coach's standpoint, Gary, to go somewhere for a year and then leave if you get a better opportunity? Does that look bad? Does that hurt your resume? I mean, do you see guys do that very often?
Not very often. I think that might be a factor in him not doing it. But it still can happen. But to leave after a year is a little quick, obviously.
And also, what do you think about Ben McCollum and Bernard Sturtz, their star player? Do you think he'll come to Iowa?
Well, that kid's, I haven't seen Drake play a lot. They've had it, we've talked about it. They've had unbelievable. He won 30 games is off the charts. He has won big everywhere he's gone. I don't know if I mentioned Zach Morley played for us at Wisconsin. Knows him well. They're from the same Division II place where he coaches, where Zach's from, and thinks very highly of him. So that's another possibility. He has done an amazing job at Drake.
And Sturtz does have 1 year. I think that's why Marcus is bringing that up, Gary. There's this thing, and the same thing with Darian's son Tucker, who's a phenomenal player and played with the Sanfords. Those guys have an extra year of eligibility. If Iowa makes a change and those guys are potential candidates, the portal is a possibility for their star players. That's just how things work nowadays.
No doubt. Also, what do you think the expectation is for next year if we hire Ben McCollum or Darren DeVries?
I think the expectation first year with a new head coach nowadays at a Big Ten program is get back to postseason play. Gary, it's hard to know what
I think you try to get the postseason every year. It's, depending on how the roster comes together, that may or may be possible. But we've seen it. We saw it at Michigan. They were just horrendous. I think they won 3 games last year in the league, and now they finished second. So it can be done. It's not easy, but I think every year trying to get a postseason. I think anything less than that is not successful.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your call.
Very good, concise questions. So thank you for that, Marcus. Lisa says, appreciate you being here, Lisa. Miss Positive here. Peyton went out and giving the team and the game everything he had, left the jersey in a better place. So would absolutely agree with that. Criticisms aside about the game, again, phenomenal person, obviously great leader. And, boy, he stepped up. That's what you want to see from your leaders on the court, Gary, not just the rah-rah side and the verbalizing the leadership, but also, hey, he made 8 threes today.
Yeah.
He left it all.
He was terrific.
Yeah. All right. Let's move to our next caller. We got Dylan here calling the post-game show. Dylan, welcome in.
Hi. I didn't expect to get on.
You're on.
Okay. Well, first time, long time. I love the show.
Thank you.
I have a question for Coach. Okay, I've been watching Iowa basketball basically my entire life. And it just infuriates me, Fran's inability to put in any kind of even a decent defense. And so what is it that makes Fran so, I don't know what the word is, just allergic to defense? Is there any kind of explanation for that?
Yeah, that's a real good question, especially, just not, just watching from afar. You just don't know what they're teaching, what they're doing, what they're emphasizing. Like anything, in basketball or even in life, the things that you emphasize, usually those are the things that you're you're good at, or at least are improving. And it's it's been a problem, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on in terms of trying to fix it. But there's no question that in games they haven't been successful. In many of the cases, it's just not getting enough stops. Obviously, when you play up tempo, there's more possession, so you're going to probably give up more points. But it's more, the points per possession and the quality of shots you're giving up, and they just didn't have enough stand, I guess at the other end to make things difficult or more difficult for offenses, and in most cases when they got beat, it was on that end of the court.
And you've said before, Gary, let me just reiterate, you've talked about teams are especially with the best coaches that are good at what they do, your teams are going to be good at what you spend time working on, right?
Right. Yeah.
So your emphasis, is it fair to say there's probably a much greater emphasis on offense in practice year round with Fran's teams? I'm not trying to make you laugh, Dylan, or anyone else, but is that fair?
I mean, like I said, we don't know because we haven't been there, but obviously they're very good offensively. Coaches teach what they're comfortable teaching and what they're good at. And he's obviously a very good offensive coach, and he's proven that year in and year out. They just haven't been able to consistently get enough stops to consistently win when their talent is such that other teams have got a chance to score on them. So I'd agree with that.
Anything else, Dylan?
Yeah, and it's a bit of a negative question. Do you think, in your heart of hearts, that the Iowa basketball program truly has just a ceiling of, at best, they're going to get to the round of 32, and we just are destined to never break through, due to NIL, due to geographical limitations? Like, I'm just more and more, I'm starting to think that there just truly is a ceiling. So, not to be purely negative, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, I get that. No, I don't. I mean, and I'm not, privy to the NIL situations and things like that. So, I'm really out in left field as far as that goes. But Iowa's got great tradition. And it wasn't that long ago that I think they were a 2 seed in the tournament, and then of course got bumped out, which can happen in tournaments. But no, I don't think there's any reason to not believe that Iowa can consistently be in the NCAA tournament, and in years when things are going right, that they should be able to advance. It's not easy. There's no question about that. But I think generally speaking, I don't see any reason why the bar can't be higher than that.
And real quick, weren't they a 5 seed when they got beat by Richmond in the first round? Pretty sure they were a 5. So
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but to your point, Gary, like 2 seed, you're projected to go to the round of 16. 5 seed, you're projected to go up against a very evenly matched team in the second round to get to the Sweet 16. And the other thing about this, Dylan, I understand where you're coming from, and looks like you and I are probably pretty close in age. I could be wrong on that, but I'll say this: don't lose hope, because we have seen one thing for 15 years. So when you say I'm starting to feel like there's a ceiling, don't let one group of sample size dictate how you feel about the ceiling of the program. I hear everybody talk about the NIL. The NIL is where it's at under Fran. We don't know what the NIL will be under Ben McCollum, Darian DeVries, BJ Armstrong is a name I like to throw out there just for kicks. We don't know what the NIL support will be like. And here's the other thing. We don't know what the NIL support would have been like had Fran got him to the round of 16 a couple of times. We don't know. So the next coach may have to break through once, and maybe the NIL funding changes. Obviously, they can't rely on getting a generational player like Caitlin Clark, but look at what's happened with the women's program.
It would help.
It would help, but we're not reasonable, practical. But look what's happened with bringing in someone like Lucy Olson, who's been a a godsend for the Iowa women. So I would echo what Gary said. Gary knows it a lot better than I do because he's lived it. But I have faith that this program can be a Sweet 16 contender. And by the way, they've been a tournament team every year for that stretch of time. Was it like 2018 to 2022? Didn't they make like 5 straight tournaments, not count if you throw in the COVID year, and they would have been pretty high seed that year. So I give them that. They were in the tournament that year. You know, people will say, well, you can't count that. No, you can. They finished the regular season. They were going to be in regardless of what they did in the Big Ten tournament, and they would have been in with flying colors. They were playing for a double bye before everything got shut down. So stealing in the program, don't discount that yet. Let's just wait to see what happens with the next person, if there's a next person.
Fair enough.
Okay, Dylan. Thank you for the call.
Thanks for all.
Did I do good with that, Gary?
You're outstanding.
Am I on it tonight?
Right down the middle.
Beautiful. Yep, that's it. Hey, have you been golfing? Can I ask that question?
Not yet, but I will be.
Good for you. I'm happy for you. That's great. I got to get out the course more this year. I got out in the course probably a season low last year during the summer, and I'm determined not to let that happen this year. So
That's a good goal.
All right. Matthew, good question for Coach. Does Brock remind you of Troy Skinner?
I would not really. I think Brock's a little bit of a better. They're similar in terms of size. I think Brock's a little bit better athlete. Troy might be a little bit better shooter. Troy was a real good shooter, but there's some similarities. I don't think there's any question, but there's also some differences.
Our RTI Threads player of the game today was Peyton Sandfort. He had 30 points on 11 of 20 shooting, and also gave them 8 threes in the making of 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and a pair of steals. And let me just double check this stat. And I know we've heaped lots of praise on him so far for just his effort, his emotion, his intensity. But you would have liked to have seen more than 2 rebounds. If we're because I actually have that wrong. He had 2 rebounds, so we'll correct that.
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to say I was on it, but 2 rebounds for Peyton. So you'd like more than 2 rebounds because he may be their best rebounder, frankly, Gary, in a game where they struggled.
Probably night in, night out, he is.
Yeah, 2 rebounds, 2 steals, and Peyton had 0 turnovers. So, he has the ball in his hands a decent amount for being a non-guard. So Peyton Sandfort, our RTI.
And he's got the best defender on him.
Say that again.
And he's got their best defender on him.
Right. Folks, if you've not done this, go over to RTI Threads and check out their selection. This is their website. We keep highlighting it. But you can celebrate Hawkeye athletics year-round, not just with Iowa men's basketball gear, but also football gear. But how about celebrating this guy, Peyton Sandfort, and his NIL cause? A portion of the proceeds, of course, go to the athletes and their player-specific logos. Again, you can check out what Peyton Sandfort, his merch line, has to offer. Visit rtithreads.com/NIL. Pick your colors, pick your sizes, and again, support the Hawkeye athlete. Just click on NIL athletes when you go to rtithreads.com. Use the /NIL if that's easier, or you can just click the link in our description. All right, we have got a super chat coming in here from Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Kelly says, yes, I cried too. Way to leave it all out there, P. And those are the comments you love to see because it shows the emotion and the investment that Hawkeye fans have. And it also humanizes people. There's a lot of fans. Sometimes we always say this, the loudest fans are oftentimes the worst fans. They get on social media and we're talking about the death threats that Peyton allegedly got here like a week ago. It's ridiculous. But there's people like a lot of Hawkeye fans out there, Gary, like Kelly, that love the Hawks, love the people that wear the uniforms regardless of their skill level. So, Kelly, thank you for that super chat. It's always good to see the support. Mac, thank you for the super chat as well. Like for Peyton, left it all on the court. Could not agree with that statement more. All right, let's go to our next caller. We got Ryan calling in. Ryan, welcome to the show, sir.
Hi, gentlemen. Thank you both for taking the time. Good to see you, Coach.
Good to see you too, Ryan.
Thanks. I just was thinking with your last caller, did we reach our ceiling? And I just guess you wanted to remind them that every year there's a lot of non-power 5 teams that make a run in the big dance. Team that obviously don't have, large NIL budgets, but what they do have, and it's indicative of the teams that do advance. They're typically teams that play good defense. Defense does win games in the big dance. And I guess what's very frustrating is it's obviously it has nothing to do with today or this year or the Wisconsin debacle with 116 up there. It's plagued this program in the Fran era for a long time, and I just don't think there's really been any real major effort to address it. It doesn't. What good is it scoring 90, 92 points if you're going to give up 100? And so, I'm watching this 14 seed USC team, and they just scored on us at will. And yet we put, I think, 88 up in that game. But did it matter? No. So
they scored 99 against Iowa?
99-88, I believe the score
So
was.
You can't count that as a 100-point game. But if we said how many games this year did Iowa give up 99 or more, I think it's at least 4 or 5, right?
Well, it's way too many. And it's not even just this year, obviously.
Ryan, real quick, back to if it's at least 4. UCLA, USC, Wisconsin on the road, Illinois today, and there's got to be another one I'm missing. So that's 4. But even at 4, that might be a Big Ten record. Maybe not. Maybe not. Gary, you've been following the sport a long time. Maybe I'm wrong. But, man, that's got to be close to a Big Ten record for most number of 100-point games given up. But to your point.
When you can't rebound or shoot free throws or play defense, to be honest with you, it's kind of a miracle that we have a, quote, winning record. Because really, we were pretty poor, and we lost our only inside presence. Not that we were a very good rebounding team with Owen. But obviously, as far as the big decision, I think you're going to know the answer tomorrow for sure. And it's either going to be nothing, you're going to hear nothing at all, or you're going to get an announcement, because there's no doubt the decision's already made. In the world of college basketball, they're not waiting until the season is over to start deciding how they're going to evaluate and if they're going to move on. The decision is already made. I don't think the ejection is really going to change things much because, like I said, the decision's been made. So my question for both of you, you already answered, Corey, and Coach, we're not going to ask you what you think, but I will ask, what do you think Beth will do, if that's a fair question?
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? I guess.
You said you think he should have coached his last game. Does that mean you think Beth will can him or make a change, or do you think that maybe she holds on another year? Because when you're looking at recruiting, I think he's got right now coming into this year 4 years left on his deal, if I'm not mistaken. And so you're at that, like with Dr. Tom, it was a different era. It was 1 year. He had 1 year left on his deal when Bowlesby made that decision, and Mary Sue Coleman said he's going to play out or coach out his contract. They don't do that nowadays. I mean, you got to be 4 years out, right? And so aren't we kind of at that 4 year out mark where you either got to extend year to year or make a decision? Either way, you're paying out, right? Unless you players.
Yeah, I mean, could you extend by a year and create a contract where you have a smaller buyout, assuming, because then you give yourself another year. Gary, that's possible, right? Contractually, you could extend a year and adjust the language of the contract. So that could happen. I'm certainly not putting my chips on anything. I'm not a betting man anyways, but I did see somebody in the chat that says that there's, I don't want to repeat what reporters are sending to premium subscribers, but it sounds like there's different things being said about what Fran thinks it will happen. So I won't repeat that. I know it's in the chat, but Yeah, I think he's coached his last game, but I'm just going on my instinct. I've not talked to anybody behind the scenes, and I've certainly not asked any of the people behind the scenes that I know, because I don't think it's fair. I just don't think it's fair to do that, especially during the season. And the season just ended today. I don't even know that I would after tonight, because again, some of these players probably want to play in the Crown, whatever postseason tournament they get invited to. They want to keep playing. So I think he's coached his final game. Do I think that he should have coached his final game? If it was my decision, and it's hard to relate because don't have all that power, but I think I would. I'd move on because of the situation you just outlined. And with all due respect to some people who have talked about the defense getting better, the defense is not getting better. It's just not. It's not getting better. The proof is in the pudding. So, yes, I would make that decision if I had say in it.
So, quick question for Coach. He obviously was with Bo Ryan for a long, long time. Fantastic coach. Also a coach who seemed to be able to get his blankety blank blanks across without getting run. There must be some art to it, because I think if you got a new coach, at least there were a handful of refs in the Big Ten, I think, that sort of had it out for Fran for past years that just never liked him. What was it about Bo Ryan that allowed him to be as demonstrative sometimes as he was and still not get run? It does feel on the outside that him and Izzo got away with a little
Well,
bit.
there's an art to it, but I think the other thing is you've got to be honest. You get on somebody, you've got to have a pretty good idea that the call wasn't right, or there's something that needs to be discussed. If you're just constantly berating somebody just to berate them, and you have no basis for it, then they're not going to respect you, and you're not going to have the type of rapport that you need to get your point across. And there are guys that can really work officials, and there are guys that can't. I think the ones that can know when to pick their spots and are honest. They're not trying to pull something on somebody, because these guys have been around. They know when you're trying to do that.
Because when you look at the foul discrepancy and the free throw discrepancy and how many steps I saw Illinois get away with, how physical they were and got away with it. I just don't think you would have seen that discrepancy if Coach Ryan was on our sideline.
Well, we played Duke in the national championship game, and that year we averaged 8 fouls per game. Led the country. Only fouled 8 times per game. And in the first half of the Duke game, we had, I believe, 2 fouls, maybe 3. And going back and look at the tape, all 3 of them weren't great calls, but that's going to happen. In the second half, we had 16.
The Coach K magic.
Quickly turned the game around. So, it's part of the game.
That's
Ryan. I got Tom, and I've got one more caller I got to get to before Tom. So feel free if we'll talk again here soon. So
thank you very much, Coach. If this is the last one for your dedication this year, appreciate it. Thanks, Corey.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, we've got one more caller, and then we're going to get to Tom. We have got Corey in here, and Corey, thank you for your comment here earlier somewhere. Yes, reminding everybody to hit the like button. Now, I will say, Corey, I'm not going to let you come on here and passionately give your
No.
You did that yesterday, but welcome to the show, and I do appreciate your
Good
support.
to have you back.
I appreciate you
Shine.
I appreciate it that you let me let it rip a little bit. Give me a little freedom. So I genuinely thank you. Coach Close, it's been a pleasure, and I don't thank you every time. And I heard previous caller thank you, and I felt bad because I owe you several thank yous. It's
Not at all.
it's a pleasure to have you and be able to interact. I guess a couple things. Luca Garza's dad put together a spiel on Twitter. I don't know if people have seen that, but it was a pretty heartfelt testimony for Fran, and I would encourage anyone to listen to it if you can find it. Secondly, I'll just say if I'm Beth Getz, I would say to Fran, I want to bring you back, but you got to give me something. I got to be able to go to the people with something. What change are we going to make this defense better and to instill better rebounding in this team? Because fans are losing hope, and you've got to give me something. You got to give me a hire of a specialist. You got to give me something. If I was Beth Getz, that's what I would put on Fran, and I would tell him, I'm confident in you, but I think we need some support on the defensive side because we just aren't showing improvement. And last,
Can I just agree with you for a second, Corey? I don't know that I agree with that's what I would do, but if she's not going to let him go, she's got to do that, I think. I agree with you on that. I think if you're not going to move on, you've got to do something. You can't just say, yeah, we'll give you one more year. I believe that you can't do that with fan apathy. Go ahead.
And my last point, and then I'll have a question, but my last point is you're never going to see a team outmanned, and they were outmanned tonight. They were gassed, and to put forth the effort that they put forth speaks to the character of this team and the character of that coach. And those players gave everything they had and whatever was left in their corpses tonight to try to compete for their coach. And I think that's another testimony to the class and the type of character that Fran is and the men that he shapes and forms and builds. Okay, X's and O's. If you want to take some shots at him for defense, rebounding, that's fair game. But if you want to attack his character, then I'm here to confront you because that's something that I'll have a problem with as far as people attacking his character. Now, lastly, Coach, I think you were a bit of a part of a coaching team that was kind of on their way out, and I guess can you speak to what is the feeling of being in that position where people are, the voices and the vultures and the piranhas start swarming and the attacks. I mean, obviously, you probably didn't have social media back then, but what was it like in the Davis era with some of the noise and just what was the feelings and what are these coaches going through right now as far as this coaching staff?
Thank you,
that's
Corey.
good.
I'm going to let you slide. Thank you for the call as always, sir.
That's a good question. It's obviously a lot different now than it was back then with, like you said, with the social media. It's even that it's only kind of come on here in the last several years. So it's a lot different. But when you get into this profession, you got to have a thick skin. You know that there are going to be people that don't like it. There were people who were upset with us when we, had the 17-point lead or 16-point lead at halftime, didn't get to the Final Four, even though we won 30 games that year, whatever it was. So that's part of being in the profession, and you've got to understand that's going to happen. And like you tell your players, as long as you're putting the effort, doing everything you can to do the best possible job you can, then that's all you can do. And sometimes injuries derail you. Sometimes bad luck derails you. All kinds of things can come into. And one year we were a really good team, and Ray Thompson was declared ineligible in the middle of the semester, and we're going to play in an NCAA tournament game with a real good team. All of a sudden, we don't have one of our best players. So, that kind of stuff you can't control, and so you hate. Who steps up, and you got to move on and do the best you can, which is all you can ask.
All right, folks, we're going to add in our good friend, Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com, who's coming to us live from Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Tom, welcome. Thank you for taking the time, sir.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good. What's the score of the last game, Tom?
Last I looked, Purdue was ahead. or not Purdue. USC was ahead 25-17 last I looked,
Really?
but I
Oh.
can't see where I'm sitting at right now. I can't see the TVs.
Well, that's the side of the bracket. Iowa side of the bracket might open up. But anyways, Tom, we'll get right to it. Obviously, very emotional. We've already talked about Peyton's emotion, the team's emotion, and I'm sure it was emotional.
Oh my gosh. I'll tell you what. I have been the end of seasons. Those locker rooms, and Coach Close can speak to it. It is like nothing you've ever seen. I'll never forget being in the locker room with Jeff Horner and Greg Bruner and Adam Haluska after the Northwestern State game up in Detroit when they lost that NCAA game, and that was their final game. And I never thought I would see anything like that again. Tonight was I felt uncomfortable being in there, to be honest, because I kind of look at the locker room as a sacred place for those individuals, and the emotions that were coming out from those coaches and the players was just so real and so raw and so real. It was just unbelievable. And like I said, I almost walked out because I said something to one of the other reporters. I said, we shouldn't be here because that's their time to, I don't know if grieve is the right word, but to grieve that season and the loss.
I think it is the right word, Tom, because they're not just grieving the season, but the older players and even some of the other players that know they're leaving, maybe they're grieving the loss of their teammates to some extent. And so I think that's the right word. And I respect you for that.
But just some. So we talked to Fran on the dais on the stage, and Scott Docterman asked him if he expects to be back next year, and he said he does. And we'll see what Pep Getz decides here in the next 48 hours. I think it'll be closer to 24. She'll give us some sort of decision on his future. He also said he expects his team to play in the Crown event in Las Vegas at the end of March. So I know they've been invited, and as long as you have 7 scholarship players, you can go. So we'll see if that happens. But that's the kind of the key things that he said. He also said what he said to the officials was basically he wasn't happy with the foul discrepancy that they were seeing on there, that there were more fouls being called on his team than the other team, and he pointed that out to I think the initial one was Brian Dorsey that he said that gave him the first technical, and then I think it was Larry Serrato who gave him the second one and ran him. Because I think he said a magic word along with the word bowl, and then another word after that something about ducking bowls, and that got him run. So that's
so he was upset about the foul discrepancy. Did he express regret over the second one?
He just didn't feel like that rose to the level of being run. I think that's
Gary, your thoughts, your response to that? I mean, we talked about the technical.
I didn't get the looks that you guys got. I was surprised.
Yeah, I was too. I looked at it the second time, all of a sudden
he's gone. And
well, I'm saying he got teed up. And then he said it's bleep and bleep bleep at the official. So that's what I'm asking. Is that enough? Should you think that doesn't rise?
It could be enough, but I've seen people say that and not get run.
Yes, okay. I've seen way more coaches say that in response to a technical a few seconds later and not get run than I have get run. It almost seemed like they it's so funny because what I find interesting here is the whole year basically. One of the chief complaints I have heard from Iowa fans is Fran doesn't care. He's just standing there with his hands in the pocket. And now tonight, he's Fran of old, and people are mad that he got run.
Tom, he got the second. There's a balance.
Yeah. Balance. I understand. I understand that. I completely understand. I just don't think that rises to the level the way he didn't make it personal. He just said in a general comment, that's bleepity bleep.
Right.
And I just don't think you run him. You just say, hey, Fran, just cool it or I'm going to run you. That's what you do. You just say, hey, I'm going to give you another one if you don't settle down.
And I won't argue with that. I do think there is a balance between hands in pockets.
But we don't know the other thing we don't know is if the officials had warned him more than once during the game. And
that is just so Andy Katz reported that during the broadcast that in the first half, Larry Scarato basically told Fran that's enough. So that was reported
and that's
during the broadcast.
Okay, I didn't know that, but that makes sense because I think Larry's a pretty good rep. I know he gets a bad rap sometimes, but I think and Fran has told me he thinks Larry Scarato's a good rep. He's told me personally. He's like, yeah, that wouldn't have happened if like Larry Scarato was here because he wouldn't have put up with it. He would have.
But Tom, aren't you the one that coined Little Larry?
I did call him Little Larry.
You had some good ones, but that one's an all-time best right there. I use that one.
It is. It is. It's just he's a cop, or he was a former cop.
Yeah,
He's
I
retired
did know that.
now. He had to make a choice between officiating and making some good bank, making like $3,000 a game or something, and working 6 days a week or whatever. That's another thing that probably needs to be addressed someday. But we have a shortage of officials. But the number of games that Larry Scarato and Jeff Anderson, Hawkeyes, that he works, Brian Dorsey, all these guys, the number of games they work every week and the travel that's involved. I remember seeing like it might have been like Kelly Pfeiffer. He was doing like a Mountain West game on a Friday night and then a Saturday noon game in Michigan. It's just, that's impossible. How do they get there? I don't know. Maybe they have the Star Trek transporter room or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know Ed Hightower used to fly a plane. He used to have a plane, right? You remember that, Coach Close?
Yeah.
Ed Hightower had a private jet. He had a private. He was a pilot, so he'd fly himself.
What happened to Teddy Valentine? Wasn't he in the Big Ten for a while?
Still roughing.
He was doing that. He did the Duke game today. I saw him on TV.
So how does that work, Gary, with like officials going from conference to conference? Did he just move, accept a new deal?
It used to be, I don't know if it still is, Tom might know, they can go anywhere they want.
Yeah, they bounce around.
Yeah. So it's, obviously they want to go to the higher quality conferences. And they used to have Big Ten officials, but that changed. And it's more of an open contract. They can go wherever they want.
Yeah, I saw I know Ted Hillary. I saw him today, and he's kind of like coordinating officials for the Big Ten. He's doing some of that. So they've got some of the older guys still around. I know Ed Hightower was doing some stuff for the Big Ten a while back. I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but it's good to have those guys because those guys were good officials. They, I always thought they were pretty fair and did a nice job. But like, I don't think Ted Valentine's doing Big Ten games anymore. I think they kind of.
I haven't seen him in a Big Ten in a while.
I think they moved him along a few years back. I know he and Fran had. Boy, we were talking about it tonight. One of the all-time great stare downs was, I think it was like 2006 at the Big Ten tournament against Michigan State, and Iowa was winning by like 10 points in the second half, and Michigan State just had every call go their way. And
horribly officiated game. Horribly officiated.
Nix, the big kid from Michigan State, Gary, you remember him? Deshaun Nix, the big kid.
Chokehold, right?
Yeah, he had a chokehold. The one time he just trucked right in. Zach McCabe is just standing there, and he just trucked right over him. And Zach got called for foul.
He dragged him down the court in a chokehold.
And he could get no calls. So Fran that was the first time that Fran pulled the almost stare down. He just stood there and mocked Ted Valentine's stance during an entire timeout. And they just kind of stared at each other. It was incredible.
He also threw the suit jacket in that game. You remember that, Tom? He threw the suit jacket in that one.
That
was a horrible shitty game.
I was right behind the bench. That was the old days when they let us sit down on the court for the Big Ten tournament. I'd love doing that because you got to hear things and see things. And they don't do.
You did that on the road though the other day, didn't you? Weren't you right behind the bench? We saw you on TV.
That was the Illinois game.
Yeah, man, they really treat you good down there. They're right.
Oh, Illinois is great. Love it down there.
Man,
Yeah, they know how to treat the media.
they sure do. Tom, I know you've got a limited schedule, and I want to move you along here to get to your folks, and I appreciate you, as always, you taking the time throughout the season. So thank you for that. DC Hawkeye, thank you for the super chat. DC Hawkeye says, Beth needs to make the obvious decision as soon as possible. As the Wicked Witch of the West said, Iowa basketball is melting. DC Hawkeye, thank you. And hey, Linda asks a similar, I guess hers is formulated more into a question. Will the ejection be the nail in the coffin? I don't think that's going to play a role.
You know what? One thing that I thought was interesting, and it could be nothing, it could be something, but like last night after the game, I should have mentioned this to you guys last night, and I just totally didn't really register with me, but there are folks from the athletic department that are here, including Beth Getz and several of her lieutenants, and there was nobody down there at the locker room to kind of offer encouragement or anything to the players, coaches, whatever. They did not venture down there. They just kind of, I guess, left the arena. I don't know. But I thought that was interesting because in the past I've always seen like Gary Barta or somebody down there kind of shaking hands with the players, patting them on the back for a job well done. Now one is Associate Athletic Director Matt Henderson was down there tonight by himself. No Beth Getz down by the locker room. So I just thought that was interesting. Maybe a tell. I think probably a tell about what's about to happen, but we'll see.
Let me ask you. I mean, I can put you on the spot, Tom, and you can say I'm not going to answer it. But and if you want to save it to your podcast, you guys do a great job too. But
no podcast tonight.
No podcast with Randazzo. Okay, let me ask you this: is the comment from Fran about the crown and about what he expects? You've been covering this sport, this team, and his
That's
program.
what he has to say. That's what he has to say.
Is it any indicator? Is it any indicator? Okay.
No, it's what he has to say.
Yeah, I agree.
If he would have said anything different, it's news. What he said is not news. It's just what he has to say.
Did he act like it was a dumb question at all, Tom?
No.
Okay.
He was respectful.
Yeah.
He was very respectful. Yeah, he knows we have to ask the question. It's just it's performance right now. We have to. The only voice that matters right now is Beth Getz. What Fran thinks about what's going to happen with him and his job is irrelevant at this point. It is Beth Getz that makes that call, and that's the hardest call for an athletic director to make. Is do you continue on with this head coach, or do you move on from that head coach? And I think we'll know within 24 hours.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tom. Anything else before we let you go? I'm not going to ask you whether you think we'll.
I'll throw, just the raw emotion from the locker room is always going to stick with me. It always does every time, but it's just like I said, I felt uncomfortable in there because that's their place and they needed to be alone in that place for as long as it took, and then they can come out and talk to us. But that's the beauty of sports though too, and teams.
Folks, follow Tom and his great team over at HawkeyeReport.com. You can follow him at Hawkeye Report, and his guy Kyle Huseman will continue to be with us as we follow the Iowa women's basketball team into March Madness starting next week with selection time. Tom, thank you for taking the time. Safe travels on your way back.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Yeah, you take care.
Always enjoy hearing from Tom. Been doing this a long time, and real emotion there from the locker room. All right, we got two final callers to send the show into whatever this is, whatever the next era is, or if it's the same era. Before we get to those calls, a reminder, shop RTI Threads, Owen Freeman, Peyton Sanford, Josh Dix, all featured, and more Hawkeye athletes, more Hawkeye baseball athletes, Hawkeye football athletes, more coming. This is a company that loves Hawkeye sports. Support the players, support this show, and support the Hawkeye cause over at rtithreads.com. Use the /NIL. And, of course, we've been touting this all year round and for the last, 3 years here on the show. but be sure you get a free quote from Brad Van Meter and his insurance team down at State Farm. Give him a call, 515-256-6480, or visit him in person down at 4229 Fleur Drive in Des Moines. We got a big storm coming here on Friday, Gary. This is people are already thinking about having good homeowners policies and whatnot. Maybe too late for this week, but be sure you're equipped with great coverage and so much more, especially as we get into the warmer months. Give Brad a call, 515-256-6480 for a free quote from Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm in Des Moines. All right, we got our last two callers here. We got Tom with us. Tom, appreciate you calling in, sir. What you got for Coach?
First of all, I want to thank Gary and Corey for putting these shows on this year. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom. And thanks mostly to Gary, because Gary's he's the one people come to listen to. I'm just a rambler. So.
And Gary, go ahead. Gary, thanks for bringing back all them bad memories of the 80s and losing a 17-point lead.
Still think about it. It's funny how you win the loss a lot more than you do the wins.
Yeah, well, I kind of forgot about it. Out rebounded by 20 tonight? Sounds like
17.
Okay. I heard them say there at one point in the second half that Illinois was 12 of 24 from three-point line again. I don't know what they finished up.
Both teams shot great from three tonight.
Both teams shot amazingly well from three. But answer your question, Tom. Yeah, so Illinois was 12 of 26. Iowa was 11 of 24. So Iowa actually shot the exact percentage that Illinois did.
Yeah. Three-pointers were the same. Next thing is, I mean, you guys were going on about the officials, or Fran was. I don't think we got beat because of the refs tonight. I didn't see that.
No, I don't think we got beat because of the refs. No, not at all. Not at all.
Just one more.
Tom, quick, I want to make it very clear. I don't fault, and I said this to Tom Caker a second ago, I don't fault Fran for the first tee. Even if the officiating was fine, sometimes I don't mind that one technical foul. We saw Jan Jensen get a technical foul the other day, so he can get tossed. And that's where, there's just a level that you can't take it to. And unfortunately, Fran's have been on the wrong end of that at times during his career.
Then one thing, Corey, before I leave.
Yep.
I heard today that the average ticket sales was a little over 5,800 at Carver-Hawkeye Arena for the season.
I was thinking it was a little higher than that, but yeah.
That season ticket sales, 5,800?
Yeah, average.
Yeah.
For the season.
Yeah,
so.
I think their average actual attendance, which doesn't count fan tickets. I think their average was like 8 or 9. I could be wrong on that. Maybe it's higher than that. But that doesn't tell the whole story, because that's not how many tickets actually get scanned into the arena. So that's a problem. Yeah. It's regardless of what Beth Getz does, she's got to address that. They just have to address it somehow. So,
all right, I'll let you guys go.
Thank you,
Thanks
Tom.
for the call.
Matt Troop giving us all an update. USC Purdue tied 35-35. Might have a game to watch in that second half, Gary. So
I actually turned the USC Rutgers game off with like 50 seconds to go and missed the double overtime.
Yeah. James disagrees with me on the ejection. Like Coach said, and even Tom, many coaches have said much more and have not been tossed. Well, Gary, you also said that you can't get the second one, right? I'm not saying that the official was right or wrong, but I mean,
yeah,
you could just not.
I mean, you can look at it both ways. I mean, you don't know exactly what happened. I agree. You can't, in that situation, you can't even get close to getting a second. But I was surprised. I mean, I thought, whoa, I can't believe he's gone. It just didn't look like much, but something was there.
Yeah, it must have built up. And based on what Katz reported from the sidelines, it was carryover. Chris, thank you for the super chat. Fran gave us good moments through the years. Let's honor him for that. Absolutely. And again, when I go live, we'll talk about the decision. If there's a decision announcement, man, I hope it's not tomorrow because I got a busy day ahead of me. Wait, hey, yeah, of course. And we'll be here to talk about it. And again, if Fran does not coach another game at Iowa, I will forever remember some of his great moments because he did bring a lot of them to Iowa, brought a fun brand of basketball. And Gary, he did take them out of a scary place. I mean, I remember this. I would have been, let's see, how old would I have been? This is going to make you sound old or feel old, and other people feel old as well. But I remember watching, let's see, I think I was in middle school when I remember watching Licklider. And I remember I'd sneak like Big Ten tournament play. I'd sneak into, like, we had some of our favorite teachers that loved basketball and were Hawkeye fans. So I would take every opportunity to try to go to their room during study hall or during lunch break to get the game up on the television to watch it. You know, we didn't stream on our phone. I didn't have a phone. But yeah, I remember that vividly. I remember going out to lunch and taking half a school day off. I don't know how I got away with that, but we did that. And but I watched Licklider. So for people that call me a bandwagon fan, I'm certainly not that, because I watched every game under Licklider that I could, followed the games that weren't televised when they were being played in late November. And but man, Fran has brought a lot. And so you got to recognize him for that. Okay. And super chat from Asa. Thank you, Asa, as well. We appreciate your support. Asa says, where is our basketball identity now? Well, it's going to be hanging in the balance of one Beth Getz and the administration, without question. Lonnie, thank you for the super chat. Lonnie, great season of coverage, gentlemen. Thank you. And thank you, Lonnie, for being here. Very much appreciate that. Let's go to our final caller of the night. We got James here with us. James, appreciate you calling in and joining the show as always.
Yeah, I'm going to start off kind of on the same note with, as somebody that has been in that boat, obviously not at that level, but been in that boat. These nights are some of the hardest nights to see people you've watched grow from freshmen to seniors, graduate, move on, because you watch the person they became from one year to the next, right? Became freshmen to seniors, right? It's one of the hardest. Obviously, this ain't their last game. They're going to play probably in Crown or whatever they go, right? But, like, in general, it's one of the hardest moments ever, right? Because you watch these people grow up, pretty much, right? Like, and obviously college is different than other levels, right? But you watch these kids grow up, right? Like, you watch them grow up to the people they are now, right? On top of them playing basketball, just on top of that, and it makes it even sadder in that aspect of things, if that makes sense. So, to all the seniors, just appreciate everything, right? Like, and you guys lay it all out there, and it's tough to see when you watch people grow like that grow, especially like a Peyton who was here all his career. Obviously, Evan wasn't still, but right, it's still sad to see him go as well, right? But Peyton was here for all his seasons and stuck it out no matter what. So
this is an interesting comment from Nathan, not to discount what you just said, James, but Nathan in the chat says something interesting from Fran's presser is him saying that Iowa needs to have $6 million in NIL for basketball to compete for a Big Ten title. I didn't hear the context of that, but that is a comment that makes me wonder if maybe he actually knows he's done, but I don't know. I don't think it's the time to advocate for more NIL dollars after you gave up 106 to Illinois in the Big Ten tournament, but that's my opinion. James, appreciate what you just said, and any response to the emotion. You've talked about it, Gary, but you've been on the other end of this a number of years.
It is. You're going 100 miles an hour every day, and all of a sudden it's just done. You got nothing to look forward to the next day, and then you're looking at your buddies and the whole deal. It's a tough thing to go through. There's no question. That's why it's nice to be the last one.
Curtis brings up, yes, Maryland also scored 101. So that's at least 5 games this year where I was giving up 99 or more points. So that's what it is. That's got to be close to a Big Ten record. I can't imagine. James, anything else?
Obviously, I didn't follow the scores, and I didn't follow the games like you guys did. Obviously, because I get into the season, I get very busy. I got a lot going on, right? But I think it's one of the most frustrating seasons for me in the aspect of I wanted to at least make the tournament. I mean, obviously you want to win the thing too. Obviously I have higher standards than that too, but like for some of these kids, like, how hard they work, and just to not even get there, not even get that chance, and it sucks, and it's just hard to see, like, giving up that many points that many times is frustrating. But also, I know they don't play defense, so I'm not one of the people that yelling at them to not play defense, because they haven't played defense in however long, right? Or they don't show glimpses of not playing defense in some games in however long, right? So I'm not like play defense because like they haven't. So what am I to yell at the screen if they haven't done something, right? Like I can't yell at somebody for not doing something that they either weren't taught or that they haven't done, right? So like,
they also can't hear you through the screens. So.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, like in general, like I'm saying, like I'm not a person that's gonna like ramble and be like play defense when they had, like it's been wishy washy. So like that's just how I am. But it's very frustrating. It's just hard to see, and I don't even know what the crown tournament even is. I mean, I know what it is, right? I know it's like the equipment, but I don't know like who all plays in it. Is it just Power 5 schools? Like I don't know anything about that. I'm just I'm gonna watch it no matter what because I watch Iowa play, but. Doesn't matter either way, but I just wanted to
Sounds like
come
they're bringing fairly big brands only. That's what somebody said. Yeah, I've read up on it, but I don't know the latest on it. It sounds like the Fox wants to bring the best brands, so that makes sense, Gary. If it's all about TV and ratings, with all due respect to the Robert Morrises of the world and the Citadels, they're not going to be inviting those teams if they want views and exciting non-NCAA tournament games because everybody's watching for March Madness anyways. So,
right.
Yeah, no, but it was fun, and I appreciate you guys. I know I haven't been around as much, obviously, with my own stuff and the way stuff happened with us. But it's just fun to have somebody like just talk to, somebody like Coach Close to give his inside information, because obviously we all see stuff different ways, right? We all have our own opinions, and it's good sometimes to hear other people's opinions, especially for me, right? How other people see stuff, because that's always important, right? Everybody has their own opinion, own ideas of what should happen, what they think should happen. And I think that's also a big thing too, right? All of us having our opinions. Like, I'm gonna go on one more thing before I get off. It's like I do think Fran needs to be fought. I think we need to move on, but I just don't know if it's gonna happen. And I've been saying this forever. I've been saying this forever. I just don't know if it's gonna happen. But I do think it needs to. But I don't know if it's gonna happen. I think there's a possibility chance it doesn't happen. So that's why I'm not getting my it needs to happen, because I think there's a possibility chance it doesn't happen.
Yeah, there's a chance it doesn't happen. James, I'm going to talk to you soon because I think we're going to have some news to talk about.
Yep, sounds good. I'll talk to you later and enjoy your night. And I appreciate you guys. Be safe tomorrow, Corey, too, by the way, in the storm, and everybody in the state of Iowa that is out there as well. Be safe as well. And just that's most important at the end of the day. But talk to you later.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, lots of storms coming in tomorrow, especially eastern Iowa, southeastern Iowa. Be safe. But really everywhere under that risk tomorrow. You picked a good time to be gone, Gary.
Yeah, thanks.
Contributions are all appreciated, folks. All the people have contributed in a variety of ways, not just financially, but also supporting the sponsors, hitting the like button, sharing the show. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's see. What is this? Bobo Dog 100. I think it was Doctorman that asked how much resources he needed. Corey doesn't think he should have answered. When did I say that? I don't remember ever saying that he shouldn't have answered a question from Scott Doctorman. Anyways, let's go quick fire on our final few comments. Amanda, thank you for reminding everybody to hit the like button. If you haven't already, we got about 350 people still watching. I got a box elder bug on my arm. Man, the box elder bugs, they get in the house, Gary. Do you get those up in Madison as well?
No. Yeah, we get them. Yeah,
okay. They get in the house, man. They just find, and they're harmless, but they get in the house. JW says, if Fran gets the boot, Corey shaves.
Ooh.
That's a good one. You know what I should have done? I should have made a super chat goal that if we hit a certain goal, I would shave. Maybe I'll save that. Maybe we'll save the.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. Yeah. This is a comment in reference to our Under the Kitchen ad. Heelan Crusaders radio show. Current Iowa start. Yes, I know. The ad, we're going to be updating the ad with Randy. Yes, we know Cade McNamara is now a part of East Tennessee State. So still support our sponsors and, of course, the other athletes that Randy's still working with, including Super Bowl champion Cooper DeJean. Coop. That's right. Douglas says, how many layups did Iowa give up tonight? A lot. Yeah, a lot. Reed wants to know, does Iowa's lack of size have an issue? Is that part of the rebounding problem, just their pure lack of size?
A little bit, but not totally.
John Seckler says, Coach Close, everybody wants to talk defense. Sure, I wish defense was better, but average defense with great rebounding can get it done. Now, defense and rebounding are kind of one and the same, right? They go hand in hand. What drives me nuts, he says, is being bad at both. And he responds to that, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, maybe you're bad at both, you're in real trouble. There's no question about that. But I have seen teams that were not great defensively, but were able to compete on the boards, and that certainly helps. Obviously, if you can limit the number of possessions,
Yeah.
That's in your advantage. But there is some truth that if you are a better defender, there are some teams where there is a correlation between good defense and good rebounding. Where if you're forcing teams to take bad shots, teams are not getting as deep and as penetrating and forcing you to rotate and things like that break your defense down and makes it harder to rebounder. So a lot of times the rebounding and the defense can go hand in hand because you're forcing tougher shots and therefore you got a better chance to rebound.
Good answer, Carrie. Thank you for thanking us and being a part of the show. Same with Sharon. We see a lot of people pouring into the chat with appreciation, and I'll direct all of that to you, Gary, because you make this show what it is. So, Doug, thank you as well. DC Hawkeye, same thing. Appreciate your appreciation. Luke, thank you for being here. Go Hawks, absolutely. Ryan wants to know if that 87 team was the best overall team you've been a part of, Gary.
That was a really good basketball team. Yeah, I mean, I had 2 teams at Wisconsin. I went to the Final Four. But that, in terms of talent, in terms of guys that went on and played professionally, that was probably the most talented team I have been a part of. We had some teams at Wisconsin that went a little bit farther, but a terrific basketball team.
This user says we need a Coach Close and Kashin Alexander hybrid show. So maybe if Iowa, the women, make a run in the tournament, we'll get Gary to hop on one of our shows for women's basketball. You follow the Iowa women when you can, right, Gary?
A little bit, yep. I'll be honest, not quite as much with Caitlin around. But
you and a lot of other people.
At least I look for scores and things like that for sure. Yeah. You're always a fan.
Commander Cody, he says Corey was on the monkey bars at the playground waiting for a juice box when Gatens was playing. Can I just tell a real quick story?
I think seesaw.
Yeah, I use a little excavator. You pick up the little gravel rocks and anyways.
Yeah.
Can I just say something real quick? This is, and I think I've told this story before. This is not a Fran story, although I've had nothing but good experiences with Fran from a young age, talking to Fran, getting Fran's autograph, him taking the time. But let me just say something about Matt Gatens, because, yes, I was really young when Matt went through the program, and it was a low time, especially when it was under John Licklider. But Todd Licklider, man, I got John Licklider stuck in my head, burned in my brain. Todd Licklider. But, man, Gary, the one thing that stood out as a kid, and these are the things you don't forget. The kindness that Gary Dolphin showed me as a kid. The kindness Kirk Ferentz showed me as a kid. Although not to the extent of Gary, because I had more interaction with Gary. But then also when Matt was a player, I remember going down to the sidelines. And again, I've told the story, so please forgive me if you've heard it. But I went down to the sidelines before the game as they were shooting around. And Matt came over. I think I probably yelled his name. He came over, met me. And, he's got this scar on his head that you could always see. And he told me a story about how he got that scar in playing baseball in Marshalltown, which was my hometown. So he banged his head on some bleachers at a baseball game years prior in Marshalltown. And it was a simple little interaction, but the fact that he took the time to create that bridge between him and I, and, you look back at it as a kid, as a young person, it does stick with you. So, it's not just Fran here. This is Matt Gatens is part of the staff. Sherm Dillard's put a lot of the program. Courtney Eldridge.
Mm-hmm.
Go down the list. I don't want to miss anybody, but yeah, those you do reflect on those things. And James says, I believe there's a balance as it relates to Tease, but when he doesn't show any emotion and then wants to be butthurt when he does show emotion, yeah, nobody's debating that, James. So thank you. And Matt, I don't remember if Matt Bay says, I don't know if Matt Gatens' baseball story was from Little League or high school. That's a great question. Maybe someday I'll get to. I know I've run into Matt. We had Matt on the show a couple of years ago after they lost to Richmond. In fact, he got hired right after that to the staff, and I think I probably brought that up to him a couple of times. Remember, before ever starting this show and getting into radio, I ran into Matt in an airport, and he took the time to talk. And he's just that kind of guy. And that's why I've always had a lot of respect for Matt Gatens. So, all right, folks, let's see here. I don't see anything else, and. Recapping the Hawkeyes and their loss in the Big Ten tournament second round, 106-94 to the Fighting Illini. And, of course, one final plug to our RTI Threads player of the game at senior Peyton Sanford, finished with 20 points, 11 of 20 from the field, 8 of 13 from 3, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 steals. Will go down as a great three-point shooter in Hawkeye history, a great scorer. And his career may be over, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with the crown and all of these things. But his eligibility is up after this season. Hope your eligibility is not up next year, Gary, because I love having these interactions. Whoever gets you off the golf course again, maybe we'll get you back on the show. But thank you as always. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
And
it's fun.
we'll just wait. We'll just wait to see what happens. You and I will enjoy March Madness regardless. So
it's my favorite time of the year.
Yep. Gary, thank you for being here all year.
Yeah.
All right, folks. For Coach Gary Close, I'm Corey Braddock. Go Hawks from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Be locked in here, because when we get news, if we get news, we'll be putting some coverage together, including live coverage, and I'll be back with you over the weekend after the Iowa women get their NCAA assignment. Have a great night.